Hey everyone, if you're new here, my name's Lottie. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book tag. It feels so nostalgic and cozy to just be sitting down and talking to you guys. I really love sit-down videos where I can just sit and yap. So get your drinks, get your coffee or your matcha or your chai, get cozy, and let's talk about books. Basically, the concept of this video is that we are halfway through the year, so it's kind of just checking in on your reading goals, the books you've read, what you've loved. So without further ado, let's jump in. So for a quick recap, I've read 31 books so far this year. I'm definitely proud of that number. I know a ton of booktubers will read like 50 or even like 80 books in the first half of the year. And if I didn't have a full-time corporate job, I would love to make something like that my goal. But considering I work full-time, I'm very proud of my 31 books I've read so far this year. The first question is the best book you've read so far in 2024. Just favorite best book, hands down. I do have one standout book for this, Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I'm honestly a little surprised that this is my answer because my taste skews a little bit more like romance, women's fiction, fantasy, thrillers, young adult, and this is kind of just like general fiction. And sometimes I feel a little bit intimidated by some of these hardback general fiction books that everyone is talking about. This book has been really popular for the past few years. It was published in 2022, so it has been out for a little while now, but I've seen it on like Goodreads lists, Barnes & Noble lists, but I just absolutely loved this book. It has like a little bit of a subplot of romance, it has a little bit of a subplot of like mystery, and so I think both of those things kind of came together for me to help propel me through the story. I also am a big believer in like a book hits different when you read it at the time you need it. Our main character in this book is Tova Sullivan, and I can't remember, I think maybe she's in her like 70s. She's a little bit older and her husband recently died. All of her friends are getting older, all of her friends are having grandchildren. So because of this, Tova ends up volunteering at the local aquarium to kind of keep herself busy. She's one of those personalities, I would guess she's probably a Capricorn, honestly. It's kind of like when Richard in Gilmore Girls retired and he was like, I hate this. She like needs an activity, and honestly, I don't blame her. So she starts volunteering at the local aquarium and is helping to clean up at the end of the night. She makes an unlikely friend in an octopus at the aquarium named Marcellus, and I'm obsessed with Marcellus. Like, he's the best.
She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment.
So the chapters actually switch point of view between Tova, another character who I'll let you read about if you decide you want to read this, and Marcellus. Some of my favorite parts of the book are Marcellus's chapters. They're just so like heartwarming and insightful but funny. Marcellus's chapters have this octopus artwork, and his titles of his chapters are like day 1319 of my captivity, and I don't know, something about it just really charmed me. So I just found this to be a heartwarming story that I still think about today. This is probably my favorite read of the year so far. The way I just spent 15 minutes talking about question number 1. Okay, question 2 is best sequel you've read so far in 2024. So for this question, I think I'm gonna have to go with Daisy Hates from the Magnolia Park series. I don't know if we're thinking of this as a sequel, but technically on my Goodreads it does say Magnolia Parks Universe #2 for this book. If you're unfamiliar with the Magnolia Park series, there are currently 5 books out. So this is Magnolia Parks, and then this is Daisy Hates. So Magnolia Parks is one main character in the Magnolia Parks universe, and then Daisy Hates is another kind of main character. So the books alternate. So book number 1 is about Magnolia Parks and her love interest, BJ Valentine, and it alters POV in this book between them. And then this book, Daisy Hates, is book number 2 in the Magnolia Parks universe series, and it alternates POVs between Daisy Hates and her love interest, who I won't say because I don't necessarily want to spoil if you haven't read Magnolia Parks 1. So there's Magnolia Parks, Daisy Hates, and then there's Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home, and then there's Daisy Hates The Great Undoing, and then there's Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. So those are the 5 books that are currently out. So there's 3 Magnolia Parks, 2 Daisy Hates, but they're all part of the same series. All that to say, the entire series was a 5-star series for me. I definitely recommend the whole thing. I would say any of them are an amazing read, but you should read them in order. It's often described like Gossip Girl, but set in London. Some people love the series, some people hate it. I feel like it's kind of one of those things where you love it or you hate it. If you loved Gossip Girl, I do think you would like these. I enjoyed Daisy Hates a lot more than I expected to, I guess, because I loved Magnolia Park so much that I was like, ugh, like now I gotta go read Daisy Hates before I can get back to Magnolia Parks for book 3. But actually I really loved this book. Getting to see Daisy and her world that she lives in was a really cool kind of POV. I feel like with Magnolia you get this like 180 view, and then Daisy kind of gives you the other 180, and you feel like you have a way better 360 view of this world that they live in. So I definitely think this is my favorite sequel of the year. Okay, the next question is new releases you haven't read yet but you want to. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I am currently reading the Chestnut Spring series, so I just read Flawless, and I believe Heartless is next. So once I get through the entire Chestnut Spring series, I'm gonna go back and then do Wild Love. And then I think there's another one as part of the Rose Hill series that's coming out called Wild Eyes, I think, in the fall. So I'm gonna need to catch up on all of those, but I know a lot of people have said great things about Wild Love, so that one's definitely on my list. Another new release on my TBR is Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle. I don't even remember what this is about. I just remember reading the description and being like, I'm reading that. I read In 5 Years by her and One Italian Summer, and I actually liked them quite a bit. I feel like some people didn't like them, and for somewhat valid reasons. There's a little bit of like magical realism. All that to say, I really want to read Expiration Dates as well. And also on my physical TBR is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I talked about this in my last vlog, but I recently picked this up and definitely want to give it a read sometime soon. Okay, so those are a few of the new releases that I haven't read yet, but I want to. The next question is an anticipated release for the second half of the year. That would definitely be Reckless, which is the second book in the Powerless trilogy. I'm so excited for Reckless. I cannot wait. It comes out July 2nd, so I'm definitely gonna be reading that. But I recently read Powerless actually in June because I knew book 2 was coming out in July, so I wanted to prioritize it. And it was so good. I like devoured this book. This is a YA fantasy book, kind of like an enemies to lovers trope. A little bit of like Hunger Games vibes if you like a trial type thing. It has all of that in here. So I'm excited to see where the trilogy heads next with book number 2 called Reckless. That is my most anticipated second half of the year book right now. I also am definitely saying that because it comes out in like a week, but I just am so excited for it. All right, question 5 is biggest surprise. And I think I have to say A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. This is the 5th and currently final, but the series is not over, of the A Court of Thorns and Roses or ACOTAR series. This book is so big also. It is 750 pages. I read this in January. I read the first 3 in the ACOTAR kind of trilogy in November, and then I kind of fell off in December just because of the holidays and stuff. A Court of Frost and Starlight is like a novella, so I read that one and then this one in January, and I started reading this one and I was just like, ugh, is this gonna get good? And I remember texting my friend Emily being like, I just don't know about this one. But this book actually really did surprise me and I ended up loving it. This book again is one of those where you kind of love it or you hate it. You either like love Nesta or hate Nesta. And I kind of honestly felt a little bit of both for Nesta throughout this book. But this book follows Nesta, who's the older sister of the main protagonist in the ACOTAR kind of trilogy. So Nesta is Farah's older sister. This is kind of like the book for eldest daughters. It definitely has some of those themes throughout, or at least I find that those kinds of personalities resonate most with Nesta, and I am no exception. Considering how long this one was, I just couldn't decide if I wanted to commit to it, but I ended up really enjoying it, so it was definitely a surprise, and I encourage, if you read the ACOTAR series, to give this one a shot. Number 6 is a favorite new author, debut, or just new to you, so I'm gonna go with new to me. I'm going to be going with Abby Jimenez for this one. I had not read an Abby Jimenez book prior to 2024, if you can believe it, and now she is one of my favorite authors. I still need to read her other books, like the Happy Ever After playlist, like those books. I've only read so far Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer. I read Part of Your World and Yours Truly in like a week back to back and was obsessed. Like I read them so fast. I think out of the 3 of these, Yours Truly might be my favorite. I of course really love Just for the Summer as well, but I read Just for the Summer back to back with Funny Story, and I actually wouldn't recommend doing that. They're not like super similar, but something about them, I don't know. So I read Funny Story first and then I read Just for the Summer. I think I would have appreciated Just for the Summer more if I had given myself a break between Funny Story and Just for the Summer. So I would recommend maybe splitting them up if you're considering reading both of them, which is part of the reason I think I might like Yours Truly the most. But again, back to what I was saying, I think it just depends on like when you read a book, how it hits you. But Abby Jimenez is an amazing author. I'm definitely going to be reading more of her books this year. Question 7 is newest fictional crush, and I think I'm going to go back to back with Abby Jimenez on this one. I think Justin in this book just really wowed me. Everyone has been joking saying he is the embodiment of if he wanted to, he would. He kind of sends these like pre-date surveys and post-date surveys to be like, what would you want to do on the date? What time of day would you want to have the date? Like, what activities would you want to do? And then he would send a full evite for the date, which I just thought was so cute and charming. Just, he really put the effort in, you know? And then after the dates, he would send like, what did you think of this date? How many stars? And he just really did a lot to show up for Emma and show her that he cared about her. So Justin, you're a winner. Next question is book that made you cry. So we're circling back to Remarkably Bright Creatures on this one. When I got to the end of this book, I was bawling. So prepare yourself.
This book is so good. Oh, I can't stop crying.
The ending was just perfect and had me sobbing. So thank you to Shelby Van Pelt for that. Okay, next one is book that made you happy. Honestly, guys, Powerless. I was giggling and kicking my feet reading this. The banter between the two main characters in this book just had me like, ooh, I don't know. It was doing it for me. Lauren Roberts just really, she understood the assignment. There are, of course, sad moments in this book, and there are serious topics involved because it is a fantasy and there are deaths in this book. So I'm not trying to say that like Powerless is such a happy book, but I was giggling and kicking my feet at Kai and Peyton, so that's what made me happy. Read it. Number 10 is the most beautiful book you've bought this year, and I don't know, honestly, guys. What I want to kind of pick is Magnolia Parks. I just love the artwork on all of these books. It's so unique, and there's so many kind of like little Easter eggs from the story that once you finish it and you look at the cover, you're like, oh my gosh, like I get that now. It's almost like those tweets that are like Magnolia Parks episode 1 spoilers without context, and they're just like all these random photos. That's kind of like how the front covers are, but I think they're so cool. They're just this like collage of all of these kind of like Easter eggs for the story. I already showed Daisy Hates earlier, but also this is the other Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home. And then like the back, like how fun is that? Okay, and can we take a moment for Daisy Hates The Great Undoing? Just a moment. These are probably my favorite like cool artwork books that I've gotten this year, but there's nothing particularly special about them. The only like cool special edition book I've purchased this year is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. This one has like a metallic cover that was a Barnes & Noble, I think, exclusive. So I would say like maybe this one, but I don't think the artwork on here is nearly doing it for me the way Magnolia Parks is, but I guess technically speaking, this is like a special edition one that I got, so. The next question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? That's a great question. I didn't make like a 24 books to read in 2024 kind of TBR. I've just been kind of mood reading honestly all year, which has been working really well for me. But one book that I definitely want to read by the end of the year is Fourth Wing. I still have not read Fourth Wing, so that is on my list for sure. Let me know if you've read that one and what you thought of it in the comments, without spoilers, of course. So that one's definitely on my list as I continue to get a little bit more into fantasy. I also am really interested in either reading the Throne of Glass series or the Crescent City series later this year, like in the fall, more so around maybe even like Thanksgiving, when I have a little bit more time off of work to really dive into those and read. I think that's like my biggest fear with starting Throne of Glass. It's just like, I feel like it's gonna take me a while to get through all those books. I feel like it's gonna be a lot to digest, like back to back to back. But at the same time, I worry that if I don't read them back to back, I'm going to forget like characters and plot lines and just things that I need to remember from book to book, because I know that there's a ton of characters. It's definitely on my list, but it feels a bit daunting. So I'm trying to find the right time when I'm gonna be in the mood, I'm gonna have time. Some other books, I'm just scrolling through my Goodreads, like want to read, which I always have my Goodreads linked below if you guys wanna follow me on there. But Butcher and Blackbird is on my list, so that's the Ruinous Love trilogy. That feels like a fall read to me, I don't know why. Done and Dusted, I think could be a fun summer read. Also the Addicted series, I've never read that. The Calloway Sisters series, The Six of Crows, Dance of Thieves, The Boys of Tommen. There are a lot of like different series like that that I'm interested in reading. The Twisted series I've not read. Oh, I also really want to read the Naturals series from Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I really liked the Inheritance Game series. So those are a few of the books that are on my radar for the rest of the year. Okay guys, I feel like I've talked your ears off. I definitely need some water. That's one thing they don't tell you about sit down videos, is like you need your water next to you, because I have been talking. Definitely post any of your answers to these questions in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys on your favorite author, your favorite read of the year, what you're looking forward to reading in the second half of 2024, all those good things. If you have any bookish video requests or ideas or books you want to see me read in a vlog or just anything like that, definitely leave a comment down below. I love reading your comments. They make me so happy and it just really warms my heart to get to connect with you guys in the comments. So don't hesitate to leave a comment down below. I think that's gonna be it for today's video, but I hope to see you soon in another one. Bye guys.